The windows used to be frosted in the wintertime. You couldn't even look out to see out the. You couldn't see out the windows. It would be so cold.
Oh, yeah.
Was this when all you kids were alive?
We what?
All you kids.
All of us, the 9 of us, yeah. Until I got married, and my husband put the hot water tank in.
That's handy.
And that's how long they went with
Ow.
And then I was going to leave. After my son was born, Pat, I told my dad I was moving out because I lived on the second floor. He said, you can't do that. I said, I have to. I said, I had just had a baby. I said, and I don't want to grow this, I want to have this baby all this winter. He said, I'll put a furnace in.
Really? Wow.
He put a furnace in that house, and that was the first I was 20 years old. That was the first heat we had. All we had was one fireplace in my mother's bedroom and one heater in the living room and one gas stove this big in the bathroom.
A gas stove?
Yeah, a little gas stove this big.
Wow.
To heat the bathroom. That's all the heat we had in this 9-room house.
And you were the youngest.
Yeah. But we had a big coal stove in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to put the bricks on top of the stove and then wrap them in blankets and run upstairs and heat our bed before we'd go in bed.
I think Aunt Katie's talked about that, about heating the beds. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried to tell my son this, Alphonse. He said, oh, my.
Did Pop-Pop do his own bricks, or did he have you do it for him?
I said, I'm not kidding. I said, that's how we grew up with no heat. He didn't want to believe it. He said, I said, we did.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Did Pop-Pop do his own bricks, or did Joe have somebody else do it for him?
He was playing the cards.
You know
what? The boys didn't do that. Just the girls did.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean just the girls?
Us girls took the bricks up to our bed. The boys didn't do it.
They didn't care about it.
The boys didn't care if they had heat or not.
Johnny took
So
Pop-Pop's.
what about sickness? Did anybody get pneumonia or anything like that?
Nobody was ever sick. Nobody ever went to a doctor. Never.
Because it was Italian blood.
You just didn't do it, right? You just sucked
they
it
just
up,
didn't get
right?
sick.
Nobody got sick. Nobody was ever sick in our family.
What about any was there any natural things you would do if nobody got a cold, nothing like that?
A cold, you got over it. That was it.
Marcy, quit your whining. Get over it.
Pot of soup. I think my dad said something about there was always a pot of soup in the kitchen.
Whatever's left over went in the soup pot.
Yeah.
What if you had a headache?
There were no aspirins, no.
No headaches. You weren't allowed to have a headache? You got to get over your cold. What if you had a sensitivity? What? Flour was different back then. It was pure. It was real.
She had to be.
Yeah, I would imagine. Oh.
My mother was tough. My dad was soft-hearted.
Really?
They both came over from
He
the
used
old
to
country.
cry. He used to cry all the time.
Aww.
He was sentimental.
Lydia,
What would make him